Welcome to the webinar. This is how to raise $500,000 in 4 months. So let's get into it. So what we're going to cover, number one, we're going to solve the money problem. If you don't think that you can actually solve the money problem, meaning you don't think you can raise money, well then you can't probably even do the deal. You can't even take the next steps. So you have to understand and believe that you can do it. And then once you understand that you can do it, then we can move on to the other stuff. So we're going to be starting by solving the money problem. Then we're going to talk about how to do your first $1 million deal. And I want to just tell you guys that you're closer than you think. So a lot of you may think that, this is years away, but it's actually a lot closer than you think. How to generate investor meetings. So then we're going to talk about how to actually get the meetings in order to raise the money. Then we're going to say, then we're going to talk about what to say at these meetings. So what you say and how you say it and when you say it are extremely important in these investor meetings. It's going to directly influence the amount of people who want to invest. And ideally, this presentation is going to discuss exactly what we say. As you can see on the tabs on the slideshow, that scripts is a section, and we will talk exactly about what to say. Then we're going to discuss the benefits of multifamily investing. Because no one's going to invest with you if they don't understand the benefits of doing so, right? You have to let them know what the benefits are of multifamily. And once they understand the benefits, then your job becomes a lot easier, because honestly, multifamily sells itself, right? It's such a good asset class that you really have to not talk about you so much and talk a lot more about multifamily and a lot more about real estate. And if you understand multifamily and real estate, well, that's really all the credibility you need. All your credibility comes from your command and your understanding of the subject. So do you want a predictable system that allowed me to purchase over $5.5 million with none of my own money at just 20 years old? Well, that's exactly what we're going to give you guys today. So we're going to give you a predictable system. The system works. It's exactly what I use. I've given you guys everything. I really just want to add value and try to serve as much as I can. So this is supposed to be as much value as I can possibly put in a webinar. And I'm hoping that it delivers. So who is this for? Number one is for someone who's never done a deal. So even if you're brand new to this is still for you. This is for anyone. There's so many great tips and tricks, even about the psychology of talking to other individuals and explaining your ideas. Because basically the way that we receive information is extremely unique. And I'm going to talk about that later in the slide, so I don't want to get into it too much right now. But yeah, it's for you if you've never even done a deal. It's also for you if you haven't done any multifamily deals, but maybe you've done single family and you've realized that maybe you want to make more impact and have a bigger investment in order to really get to economies of scale, create more passive income, and free your time up. It's also for experienced investors. So I had a lot of people reach out to me about the webinar and say that they've already raised millions of dollars and they're very successful. Should they still join? Absolutely. There's absolutely some tips in here. There's absolutely some meeting structure in here that's going to help you, even if you raised millions of dollars. Because I have a very unique presentation system, and it flows in a nice stack, and there's psychology at every level. So it's a really great thing for anyone, regardless of what level you're at. Even if you're very experienced, there's still at least 1 to 2 to 3 to even maybe 5 things that you can really take away from this. So it's definitely worth your time. So number 4, anyone who wants financial freedom. So anyone who really just wants to control their life and live life on their terms and live life in the way that they want to live, right? To take the thing that they see in their head for themselves and put it into reality. That's what this allows you to do. So who is this not for? Number one, it's not for people who don't want financial freedom. So if you don't want financial freedom, which I'm being a little facetious here. I understand that most people, I'd hope everybody wants financial freedom, but some people, maybe they're not even going after it, but I'd be pretty surprised if you found this webinar and you weren't interested in it. So the first 3 here are somewhat of a joke, but the last one is more serious. So number 2 is you're okay with working with someone else for the rest of your life. Ideally here, we're trying to teach you how to be your own boss and to control your life, control the decisions, control your schedule, and learn how to actually raise money so that you can go and buy real estate deals that are going to give you passive income so that you can live life on your terms. So number 3, again, this is obviously a joke, people who don't want more free time or the ability to travel. I don't know very many people who don't want to travel, who don't want more free time. Life is, to me, about having the ability to decide how you spend your time. That's really the most important thing to me. I really am not very swayed by luxury items and cars and whatever. That doesn't really do it for me. What does it for me is the understanding that when I wake up, I could do whatever I want. That's all that I really want from this. And so if you don't want that, then this is probably not for you. But number 4, here is a more realistic one. If you're not serious about improving your life, then I definitely can't help you, because Like I said earlier, this is a predictable system. The system works. The presentation works. It's worked for me. It will work for you. But the thing is, if you're not serious about taking action and implementing it, having the discipline to like take consistent action on a daily basis, I mean, nothing's really going to help you, right? You have to make that decision first. So if you're not serious about improving your life, then this is not for you. If you're looking for a predictable way to use other people's money to buy real estate deals and reach financial freedom faster, then you're definitely in the right place. So congratulations, everybody. Give yourself a pat on the back, a round of applause. It's a really great thing that you're here. So I appreciate you guys showing up, and you're definitely in the right place. I'm going to try to give as much value as I can and really deliver here. So I really hope that this is worth it for you guys. So like I said, we have to believe that we can do it before this becomes, even worth talking about. So I put these pictures up just to show that, I've changed myself quite a bit. In these pictures, you can see, especially on the far left, how much of a goon that I was, right? And this was maybe a year and a half ago, right? I was a completely different person a year and a half ago. And I just wanted to change my situation so badly that I was able to make these radical changes in my life. And I'm not special in any way. I don't want to be looked at as special. I don't want to be looked at as different from anyone else. I have no unique talents. All I did was work hard over time. That's really all it is. I followed a proven system, and I worked hard over time. So you can do it regardless of who you are, right? And, I've definitely improved my life now. I get to be a full-time syndicator, hang out with people like Neil Bawa, and I get to actually have a better time than I used to have, right? I got to change my current situation, and now I'm in a much more, I like my situation a lot more, but I want to really hammer home that I did this as a kid, a blue-collar kid from Texas whose parents clean pools and teach yoga, right? So blue-collar family, definitely didn't make any money. My dad actually had to commute 4 hours to his work, sleep in his car during the week to clean pools in Houston, even though we lived in Austin, Texas. It's like a 4-hour drive. And so he didn't want to make the drive both ways each week. So what he did was he would sleep in his car Monday through Friday and clean pools. And then on the weekends, he'd come back and basically just crash, really sleep most of the weekend. But, that's my childhood. So I didn't grow up in some luxurious family. I didn't grow up in the right family or whatever. And I don't know any like wealthy people. So I had to meet them all after the fact, right? I had to create these relationships from scratch. So if you're in a position where you feel like you're not the right person for this, well, you are the right person for this. Everyone is. You definitely can do this. I mean, look at how young I look right here. I'm like 20 years old in these pictures. And if I can do it at 20, then anyone can do it at any age, I promise. So multifamily equals freedom. Let's get you guys excited a little bit about multifamily. Number one is the economies of scale. So because multifamily is so big, meaning like literal the amount of income that's coming in, we have enough scale to actually hire full-time management. And this is going to be professional management. So we're not going to be the ones letting tenants in at 2:30 in the morning that get locked out. And we're not going to be the ones fixing toilets, right? If you own single-family houses, often you become the guy who's doing those kind of things. But in multifamily, you have the scale so we can hire other people. Number two, cash flow from tenant rents. So we're getting predictable monthly income from people's rents. That's a great way to get passive income. It's stable, and that feeds nicely into number three, long-term stability. People will always need a place to live. This is not some new tech startup that could potentially just blow up and go to zero. It's a stable, long-term. People always going to need a place to live, and we're going to provide them a place to live. So it's a great long-term play. Number four is leverage. So we're able to actually leverage the bank's money, and we can put down 20% of the purchase price, and we can reap 100% of the benefits of the property, which is very unique, right? If I can pay 20% of something but get 100% of it, that's a pretty unique and awesome situation. So leverage is really great in multifamily. Number five, we have tax benefits. And we're really going to dig into tax benefits in the benefits section. So stay tuned for that. But just know that multifamily has some amazing tax benefits. Number six is other people's money. This presentation is all about how to use OPM. And like I said earlier, multifamily kind of sells itself. The beautiful thing about multifamily is it's extremely easy. And I don't ever want to use the word easy, but it's easier than you think. How about that? It's easier than you think to raise other people's money for multifamily just because of the fact that the asset is so quality that it kind of sells itself. You don't have to do much. You just have to literally educate them about what it is, and they're going to be interested, I guarantee it. Number seven, speed. You're actually only 1 to 2 deals away from financial freedom. And to me, financial freedom is having enough passive income to cover your expenses every month. So if you have $5,000 in living expenses, you get to $5,000 in passive income, well, now you're financially free. And you're really 1 to 2 deals away from doing that. depending upon your expenses. Obviously, if you're spending over 100 grand a month, then maybe it takes you a little bit more. But maybe you should just get your spending down first, and then you'll be closer. So 1 to 2 deals away for 99.9% of people. The money problem. So here is the money problem. Here on this 5, and then the other 2. So on the second page there's going to be 2, and on this page there's 5. And I want you guys to just think about which one relates to you the most. So number 1, we have I don't have any money. This is a big one. Obviously, I'm going to go through these lists and just debunk all of them, because these are all excuses and they honestly don't exist. They're just these limitations that we put on our reality, and they're really not true. They may seem extremely true, I promise. Well, you already know, they may seem really true, but I promise they're not true. So I don't have any money. Well, that's not a problem, right? I didn't have any money. I was a college student. I actually had negative money, right? I was in student debt. So, you don't need money, right? There's ways to get around this. We're going to talk all about OPM, other people's money, this whole thing. So we don't need any money of our own. Number 2, I didn't grow up rich. So again, as I alluded to earlier, I grew up extremely blue collar and middle class, and definitely not rich at all. Number 3, I don't know any wealthy people. I, of course, do not know any wealthy people. Wealthy people don't necessarily hang around with the pool cleaning family, right? That's not where the wealthy people gather. So I didn't know anyone either. Number 4, I don't know where to begin to look for people with money. Well, we're going to talk exactly where to find these people and how to generate meetings with them. Number 5, why would they invest with me? I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too skinny, I'm too fat, whatever the excuse is, right? The thing is, we've already destroyed the young thing, right? Because I was 20 when I did this. So that's pretty young. I don't think that you can really make that argument at all. I know plenty of people from all different various age ranges. I know a bunch of people who have done this in their 20s, who I know personally in the industry. So it does not matter your age. It doesn't matter your general outlook. It doesn't matter if you're tall, short, whatever it is. It's about multifamily. It's not about us, right? So we really have to just educate them on multifamily and kind of shrink the attention towards us, because honestly in life, like, we really don't care about the guy across from us, right? We're kind of like, people don't care about you, right? They just want to know what can benefit them. And that's not like a knock on humans. That's just kind of how we work, right? We only want to know the benefit. So money problem, continued. Number 6, how do I talk to rich people? And I've put rich in quotations here because rich people are not any different from us, to be honest. They act just like us. And not only that, to go further with that, they're not necessarily these like classical like billionaire with the mahogany desk and the big tall chair, and they like slowly swivel around and look at you and like judge you, that's kind of what I pictured when I first thought I was going to raise capital. But the thing is, you end up meeting like your local accountant, your local lawyer, your local software engineer, the guy who works at Amazon who lives down the street, like that kind of stuff, like normal everyday people, because you're only asking for $50,000 to $100,000. You're not asking for like $4.5 million in cash from one guy. Like, you're not asking for that. You're asking for people to basically just give you $50,000 to $100,000. A lot of people have that in their retirement account. A lot of people have that in the equity in their house. And some people, just have it in their savings account, right, for investment. So you're going to be talking to pretty normal people, your everyday people that you see at the supermarket, not these guys coming down on a private jet and going to have like some cigar and, big classical rich guy thing. That's not, that's kind of what we picture, but it's not real. It's not actually what you're dealing with. Then number 7, it's going to take me forever to form these relationships and raise the money. This is what I get a lot too, is it's going to take me forever. Well, we're actually going to show you that it's going to take a lot less than you think. So whatever time frame you have in your mind right now, I assure you that it's potentially too long. So let's get down to business and show you exactly how I bought my first $4.5 million deal at 20 years old with none of my own money. So the way that I like to think about this, and the way that I'm enticing you to think about as well, is to think about meetings, not millions. Because I have a little exercise here, right? Try to picture 500,000 golf balls in your mind. Try to close your eyes and try to picture what 500,000 golf balls looks like. Like, literally, let's all close our eyes and let's just try to picture what that looks like. So it's actually impossible, right? You cannot picture that big of a number. It's literally impossible for us to wrap our heads around that big of a number. And the reason for that is just because there's no real evolutionary reason for us to understand what 500,000 is, right? It's a number that we never see, so we don't understand, we don't have a grasp. And when you don't have a grasp for it, you can't go after it, because you don't even understand what you're going after. So if you don't know what you're going after, how can you go after it, right? You can't even comprehend it. So what we're going to do instead is focus on numbers that we can control and we can understand. So how many meetings is it going to take me to raise the amount of money, right? So let's focus, right? Let's focus on meetings so that we can tee it up and actually knock it out of the park. So here's the case study $500,000 in my first 4 months. So let's all just sit with that $500,000 number again. And it may seem very intimidating right now, but I want you guys to think about the $500,000 now, and then I'm going to show you how many meetings per week, how many investors, and you're going to see that everyone here can do this, right? So let's go. 50 meetings, 3 a week, 8 investors, 16 weeks, 4 months. So who here can meet with 50 people? I think everyone here can meet with 50 people. It's really that simple. I don't know anyone in this webinar who can't meet with 50 people. 500,000 may seem super intimidating, 4 months may seem super fast, but 50 meetings, just 3 a week, like 3 a week is pretty easy. You get to take 4 days off, right? Like that's really not that intense. And maybe you have them all in one day. Maybe you have Monday, you have 3 meetings, and then you don't do anything the rest of the week. That's completely fine. So 50 meetings, 3 per week. You only need 8 people to invest, right? So I only need 8 people to believe in multifamily and to like multifamily and to like the presentation. So that's really not that complicated. Instead of 500,000, now we're thinking like, man, 8 people? There's 7 billion people. We can probably find 8, right? So how long to your first $1 million deal? That's the real question, right? How long do you think it's going to take? Type that in and think about how long you think it's actually going to take you. And I guarantee you that when you see these tabs come up, you'll realize, man, this is pretty crazy. It's actually a lot closer than I think. So a lot of people are probably thinking, 6 months, maybe a year. But let's see here. So how much money am I going to need to raise? How many meetings? How many yeses? How many meetings per week? So yeah, we're going to need $250,000. We're going to need 30 meetings, 5 yeses, 3 per week, 10 weeks. It's only 10 weeks. 10 weeks of your life, right? Be consistent for 10 weeks and look at what will happen to your life, I promise. It's a really crazy situation when you are consistent in life with just action over time. Because it's crazy how we often do this thing where we see success and we just end up being like, oh, that guy's special. Oh, that person's doing something. They're just unique. They're talented. That's not true at all. It's literally just someone did something really small for a long period of time. And then eventually, you see the end result and you think that, oh, that person's a brilliant genius. And absolutely not, right? They just met with 30 people, right? Like anyone here can meet with 30 people. It's really that simple. And even like the yeses is the most yeses, right? So 5 at 50K is 5 yeses. But if you get 2 people at 100K and 1 at 50K, then you only need 3 people. So 3 to 5 people. I think everyone here can find 3 to 5 people out of 7 billion. So how do I get these meetings? Because now we've talked about how many you need, but we need to know how to actually get these things. Let's break it down into bite-sized actions that we can comprehend. So we have daily actions. The daily actions is 3 emails or direct messages a day on BiggerPockets and LinkedIn. And so you may be thinking that this is kind of a joke, like, oh, 3 emails, that's not going to get me any results. Well, guess what? I actually have anecdotal evidence that it does. One of my partners, Nick Amaluxon, we were doing a deal in Austin together. He actually has 200 units in Austin in 1 year. He did it all last year. And he was a mechanic at Audi. So he was a car mechanic, and he met his partner, Mark, on BiggerPockets by doing this strategy. And Mark bought all 200 units in 1 year for Nick. And Nick runs them, Nick manages them, but he went from an Audi mechanic to now a full-time investor because of this strategy. So it does work. And if you're wondering what to say in these, basically what you want to say is right out of the get-go, you want to tell the person what you can do for them. You want to make this about what you can do for them. Not, hey, I'm this guy, I'm super cool, or hey, how can I help you in some vague way? Like, absolutely not. You want to know exactly what your skill set is and how it's going to benefit the individual, and then send them an email or a DM or direct message letting them know what that exact skill set is and how you can help them. And it's that simple. So weekly actions. You're going to attend 1 meetup or event per week, and you're going to interact or give your business card with at least 5 people. Then you're going to follow up with all people you exchange business cards with, and you're going to schedule 3 meetings on Zoom, phone, or in person. So by going to 1 meetup and meeting 5 people, and then following up with those individuals, as well as sending these 3 a day, you should be at around 21 from the DMs and 20, and then 5, so 26 total contacts a week, and all you need is 3 meetings. So 3 meetings out of those 26 interactions. I think that's pretty doable as well. So if you're nervous about that, maybe you send more DMs. You'll find that it's pretty easy to send 3 DMs, especially once you start getting once you start getting a message, then you just copy and paste it. You could send 100, and well, I think there's a limit on direct messages on platforms, but it's higher than 3, so you could send at least like 5 to 10 a day if you wanted to. Okay, great. But what do I say at these meetings? Because now we talked about how to get them, we've focused on them. We know that we need them. But what do we actually say once we get these meetings? What do we say when we show up? Number one, I've been hammering on this the whole presentation, but it's not about you. Focus on the result that the investor desires. This person wants to know what they can get out of this, what they stand to gain. They don't really care about you and your bio, right? No one really cares about your one-member LLC and that you're the CEO of a company that only exists on paper, right? Like nobody really cares, right? It's similar to when you order pizza. If you've ever ordered pizza, you really don't want to know the delivery guy's name, his personal information, any of that. You just want the guy to come to your house, give you the pizza, and then to leave. I've never once been like, hey, buddy, what's your name? Where'd you go to school? What's your bio? You just want the pizza and the guy to leave your house. And it's the same situation here. So number two, you want to understand their current situation. And number three, you want to understand where they want to go. So think of yourself as a doctor, not a salesman, not a pitch guy, not an investor relations dude. You're a doctor. You are finding out the symptoms and then you're trying to diagnose the patient. There's no doctor in the history of being a doctor who just walks into the room, sees you for the first time, and just starts throwing prescription bottles at you. I've never seen that happen. I'm pretty sure that's malpractice. You're not allowed to do that, right? You have to understand the situation that they're in before you can tell them what you can do to help them or what prescription can help them, right? So we need to clearly understand their situation and we want to set it and fix it in space. And what I mean by that is we want to make it to where it's not even a question where they are and where they want to be. We want to make those 2 points separate. So one thing I would do would be say, how much passive income are you making right now per month? And this person, maybe they say $2,000. So their current situation is $2,000 a month of passive income. That's fixed in space. There's no arguing where they are. It's 2,000. It's a number. It's an integer. Then we say, well, how much passive income do you want to have? And they may say 10 grand, 10,000. Okay, cool. So now there's no arguing. You want 10,000, you're at 2,000. So everyone here in the meeting can clearly see that there's an $8,000 gap here. So now all you have to do is talk about how multifamily is going to bridge that gap. That's all that this is. You're going to take them from where they are now. Multifamily, more importantly, is going to take them from where they are now to where they want to go. And that's literally all that you're doing. That's all you're doing. Keep focusing on that. How can I serve this person? How can I understand their situation better? And how can I understand where they want to go better? And then how can I take them there? How can I realistically help them? So number 4, tell them the benefits of real estate for them, right? Because this is going to help you bridge that gap. Then you want to show them a mock deal presentation. You want to be raising this capital prior to actually having a deal. So you want to you want to make a presentation of a deal similar to one that you would do in the future, similar to one that you're looking for to actually get right now. Because you need to develop these pre-existing relationships. Because you can't just meet someone for the first time, hey, give me 50K. I don't think that's not going to work. You have to nurture a relationship, right? You have to start to slowly bring them in, show them a mock deal, get them interested in a mock deal, and then when the real deal comes, then you can start to ask for some hard commitments and things like that. But we want to show them a mock deal presentation. We want to build this rapport and this relationship immediately. So I'm going to show you guys part of my mock deal and how to go about it, the whole flow of it, and the psychology behind each section. So number 6, do you know anyone who would be interested in a deal like this? So for me, this is one of the most important parts of the presentation because basically you want to make sure that no matter what, you're at least going to salvage a lead. So sometimes we misrepresent the person that we're meeting with. We often, we think they're in a financial situation and it turns out they're in a different one. So that's totally fine, no big deal. But the thing is, we need to make sure that we didn't just waste a whole hour of our time, plus whatever it took you to commute to the meeting. So we're going to ask the question, do you know anyone who would be interested in a deal like this? Because if they're qualified, they'll say, oh yeah, me, I'm interested. They'll self-select. But if they're not qualified, then they say, oh, actually, and you've built this whole investor thing and this is at the end, so they're pretty warmed up to you. They're going to say, oh yeah, my buddy Bob, he just sold a tech company. He's looking for a place to invest. Fantastic, right? Now we go follow up with Bob. The meeting's not a waste. We still get a way to move forward, right? We want to make sure that, of course, we're there to help them. We're there to focus on them. But also, we can't just be going to meetings, willy-nilly and not, moving forward in any way, wasting our time. So we have to, at least get a lead out of this. So mock deal outline, the contents. Number 1, why real estate? Because we need to educate them on why real estate. We need to nurture them into the process. You'll notice here that the entire presentation is in these sections in this flow where we're kind of, there's these walls, right? So the way that people work is like you meet someone and initially there's a first wall. Once you get past that, they have another wall and you start to get like, deeper and deeper into the connection with them. So first we need to understand, we need to educate them on why real estate, then why multifamily, then why the city that we like for multifamily, then the highlights of our deal, so what makes it unique from other deals. And then we're going to move into, okay, why the property? So what kind of asset do we have? Are we a B and C class multifamily, and why is that more appealing than other types of properties? Then we have the investment. So now that they've been fully educated on the strategy and the industry, now we can talk about, well, how much money do you stand to make, right? And that's a good situation. So we're just talking about if you give 100,000, then you'll make 201,000 in 5 years. That's pretty great. And then we move to terms. And terms are basically the first time that we get into some real numbers. This is going to be the equity split, the preferred rate of return, some of the other metrics, like, DSCR and things like that are more up in the clouds in the head, right? Because we want to make sure that when we're talking to someone, the first part of the brain that receives them is the hindbrain. So it's the emotional part of your brain. It's the croc brain, as Oren Klaff calls it, right? So you initially meet someone and they can only receive emotional information, storytelling information. If you throw numbers at someone as soon as you meet them, it's literally going to go to the wrong part of their brain, and they literally can't even perceive it. You have to nurture that relationship to it meets, and then it comes and it's in the prefrontal cortex. And that happens later in the conversation. So we're literally, engineering this to where, because people, like, honestly, I know a lot of people who open and they go, boom, here's how much money you're going to make. Awesome. But the person, it doesn't even compute, right? We have to nurture the brain and get them into a place where they are willing to accept, some of the things that we're saying. We have to solidify ourselves as someone that they know and that they like and that they trust before we can actually go into numbers. But then you'll notice number 8, very last and definitely very least, is the team. Because again, your bio is not going to influence anyone to do anything, unfortunately, no matter how good your bio is. People really don't care. The thing that they're going to care about and the credibility that you're going to build is going to come from the way that you deliver the presentation and the quality of the presentation itself. It really comes down to how you carry yourself as a human being, and not some bio that you've crafted and some paper company and some role or title. No one really even cares. Honestly, I'm just trying to be blunt here, because I know a lot of people do this thing where they want to put the team first and kind of, they want to build their credibility right out the gate, right? It helps with rapport. It really doesn't help with rapport. What helps with rapport is being a human being, being a normal person, being, engaged and trying to help this individual, giving them information that they like and that helps them. If you've ever read like a really good book, the reason that you like the author so much is not because the author has some crazy bio. It's because he told you information in that book that changed your life or that changed the way you looked at things. And then you have like this weird obsession with the author for like 2 weeks after you read the book. You're like, man, that guy's brilliant. I want to email him, see if he answers my email. I'm going to give him a great Amazon review. I hope he reads it. Like, that's kind of like, and it's all that obsession with the person becomes all about the fact that they wrote a good book, right? That they gave you good information. So that's what we're trying to do here. So why should they invest? What are the benefits? So security. Number 1 is security. And it's titled security on purpose, right? We want to make sure that this person at first is going to feel secure. This is towards the very beginning of the presentation. So we want to make them understand that this is a safe environment, that this asset's going to be safe long-term, secure, not safe. We want to say secure. And then we say, number 1, this is cash flow from a real asset. So this is cash flow from a building, a structure, something that you can go and touch, that you can go and hold, right? You can walk through the units, you can see the building. It's a real thing. It's not on a computer screen, it's a real thing. Then number 2, people will always need a place to rent, because people will always need a place to live, and people will always be renters. And not only will people need a place to rent, but more people are starting to want to rent rather than own. And there's actually a big demographic shift to a renter culture. So you can see here on the slide, we have a baby boomer in a suit and tie, and he's looking at a millennial. So the millennial has a red beanie on, and it's kind of a joke because he's such a stereotype down the fairway millennial. But the thing is, millennials don't want a place, like they don't want a house in the suburbs. They don't want the white picket fence. They don't want the the 1.5 kids or however many the average kids are, like 2 kids and a boy and a girl and a white picket fence and the whole American dream thing. That doesn't really exist anymore. People want to live downtown where the culture is, go to nice restaurants, and live downtown and rent. Like that's kind of more the new thing that people want. And millennials are becoming the main generation, the bulk of the buying power. So it's there's a shift to a renter culture. Now we have control. So this is an income benefit. This isn't now a benefit. We're talking about how much money this individual could potentially make, but it's not right out there on the nose, right? We're trying to, we're like, think about it, like we're kind of reeling them in because we have an idea of what we want to say to them later, but if they're not willing to accept it, then we can't say it to them, right? They're not going to accept it. So we have to kind of almost reel them in a sense. So control. You control the value of the building. And we talk about the NOI divided by cap rate equals purchase price formula. And we talk about how we control by raising the actual income or lowering the expenses, we directly impact the value of the building. So we're going to use this very simple example where you have 50 units with a current NOI of $100,000. You have a cap rate of 5%. So if you take $100,000 and you divide it by 0.05, then you're going to get $2 million. So that's how we've come up with the $2 million purchase price. Now we're going to do a very, very simple thing, which is just, and obviously this is simplified, expenses are staying the same in this example, but we're going to increase rent $100 per door. And so basically what you want to do is you want to get them to agree that doing this, raising the rent $100 a door is not that big a deal, right? So you're going to be like, yeah, it's just $100, not that big a deal. And it really isn't a big deal. So now we have 50 times 100, because 50 units times $100 times 12 months, that equals 60,000. So now you want to pause on the 60,000 number, and you want to say something along the lines of, $60,000 doesn't seem like that big a deal. And they may even say like, dude, 60,000, what is that even? Like, I thought we were talking about millions of dollars here. 60,000 is not really going to change my life, right? Well, the thing is, you're going to show them that it actually is going to mean a lot more on the back end than they think. So now we have, 50 units with an NOI of 160,000. So now we're going to take that 160,000 and we're going to divide that by 0.05. And that's actually going to make the purchase price 3.2. So now we have a profit of 1.2 million from a $100 change. And so that's something that's really important to show them, is that, obviously this is oversimplified, but the thing is, it's the actual concept that if we can do a small change to income across several units, then we're actually going to see a huge increase of value on the back end. So we have a $100 increase, which is, everybody knows and everyone can wrap their head around, $100. We can all see something being worth $100 more, but no one really understands that turns into 1.2 on the back end. And that's something that's important to show the individual, because we controlled that rent increase, and then we ended up making quite a bit of money. So that's a really good thing to show. So now we have proven. This is our first big claim, and it's important that we're connecting it to a credible source, because if we leave this claim like wafting out in space, then it's going to be a different situation, right? Like if you ever watched a YouTube ad, right, for like someone with the Lamborghini in the background, and they're like, boom, if you want this Lamborghini, all you got to do is this. And then you're like, okay, this guy is ridiculous. I immediately don't want to hear anything you have to say. Skip. And as soon as it hits 0, you skip. So we don't want to be that guy. We're trying to distance ourselves from that guy literally as far away as possible, as much as we can. This guy's here. We want to be as like across the room. So we're going to ask the question, do you know what industries made more millionaires than every other industry combined? And they're going to be like, I don't know. What industry? And you can say, real estate. And then they're like, are you sure? And you'd be like, yeah, here's this quote from Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie goes on to say, 90% of all millionaires became so through owning real estate. The wise young man or wage earner of today would invest his money in real estate. So that's a pretty good quote. That's a pretty good quote from an individual who's one of the wealthiest humans who's ever lived. And he's just said that 90% of all millionaires became so through owning real estate. And that also, if you're a wise person, you're going to do the same. So now we've been able to actually be credible here, and we're connecting our credibility to someone who is much more credible than ourselves. So it becomes less like the YouTube commercial guy and more like a real credible fact and thing. because we want to be credible. We are credible. We have good intentions here. We're trying to help this individual, but the thing is, they have to accept our information before we can really, build this relationship and show them the true benefits. So we have tax benefits here, and this is an important thing to know, because here's where you get to really solidify yourself as an expert. So number one, we have depreciation. So if you look here at the bottom left corner, you'll have this house that's kind of dilapidated, it's falling down. Well, that's kind of what happens if you don't make any improvements to your building. And so the government's going to give you a phantom expense write-off on a 27.5 year period. And don't worry, we're going to break these down in the next slides. These are each their own slide, so we will get into it. I just want to give the overview for people who don't understand. Depreciation is the phantom expense for the overall, falling apart of a structure, and the IRS deems that takes 27.5 years. So they're going to give you a write-off because of that, and we'll break that down more later. Number two, cost segregation. So we have the ability to actually segregate the value within the building. So basically the structure that you're sitting in right now, the actual structure itself has value, sure, but also the things inside of that, like the desk I'm sitting at right now, has value, the cabinets, the appliances, things like that. And we can actually take that value and separate it from the other parts of the value, and that value will get taxed on a different schedule, on a shorter schedule as well, so that we're going to be able to actually get more of a tax write-off from this. Then we have number three, which I'm going to leave till we actually go through it. It's bonus depreciation. So it's a little bit more of a special way to do it. You have to be a real estate professional, and we'll talk about all of that coming up. So depreciation. We have a very corny hang loose here on the slide. I apologize for that, but just trying to get some more attention because you may have fallen asleep at this point in the presentation. So we have a very corny hang loose. Depreciation. So the annual depreciation write-off. You have a $1 million value of the property, and this is simplified, so we're already separating the land out of it. We're just saying that this is $1 million value, and we're going to divide that by 27.5, and that's going to give us an annual write-off of $36,363. So that's what you're going to get to write off every year against your tax liability. So that's a pretty sweet situation. It's just the general depreciation, and we're going to show you how to really amplify that. So now we have something called cost segregation. And as I alluded to earlier, we can separate into two main categories. Number one is land improvement. So land improvement means it's basically like sidewalks, landscaping. It's the things that we do. We improve the land in a certain way, it adds value, and it contributes to the value. So this is going to be on a 15-year schedule. So anything that we can separate out into this category is now going to be depreciated on a 15-year schedule instead of 27.5. So it's going to be a lot more money for them. Then number two, we have personal property. So this is going to be on a 5-year schedule. We have cabinets, appliances, etc. And these are going to be things on a 5-year schedule. So now we can actually separate these out on a 5-year schedule. And I'm going to show you an example here. So in multifamily, we can typically separate about 30% of value into these categories. So 30% of 1 million is 300,000. Then we have, 20% of that total is personal property. So 20% of 1 million is 200,000. So now we can divide 200,000 by 5. That's going to give us $40,000. So you can see we're only 20% through here, and we're already over the regular depreciation. So this is a really powerful thing, and we'll go through the other ones here. So we still have land improvement to work with. It's going to be 10% of the overall value, which is going to be 100,000 divided by 15. That's going to give us 6,600. So now just from the 30% that we've separated, we have made over $10,000 in tax write-offs, just from the 30%. And we still have 70% left over. So now we take that remaining 70%, 700,000, and we divide that by 27.5, and that's going to give us 25,000 and some change. So overall, our new write-off is going to be 72,000 a year instead of 36. So we basically doubled it, and that's the power of cost segregation. But wait, there's more, right? It gets even better. So bonus depreciation. If you qualify as a real estate professional, you can actually take 100% of the value that we separate in year one. So that 30% that we took out from into personal property and land improvement, that can all be taken in year one. So now not over a 5 and a 15-year time schedule, but over a 1 year. So the first year, we can take 300,000 on against our taxes, which is pretty sweet. And if we don't use it all, it rolls over to the next year and then the next year. So it continues to roll over until we use it all. How do you qualify as a real estate professional? Because that sounds pretty sweet. I definitely want to get in on that. And this is also something that you're going to be, this whole slide section is because you're trying to find out how you can get this individual you're meeting with more tax benefits. And the reason that I even talk about the bonus depreciation and the real estate professional clause is because I've actually gotten an investor this way, and I'll tell you how in a second. But first, let's define the real estate professional. So must provide more than 1/2 of his or her personal services in real property business trades or in real property trades or businesses in which he or she materially participates. So basically, you have to spend more than half your time in real estate, and you have to materially participate. So you have to have money involved in your participation to be a real estate professional. Number 2, and perform more than 750 hours a year of these real estate services. So that works out to about 15 hours a week. And so contractors, architects, real estate agents, things like that. The thing is, most people that you're talking to won't be real estate professionals. But the cool thing about this is if their significant other or spouse is a real estate professional and they file jointly, then they both get the tax write-off. They both get to be real estate professionals on a tax paper. So if you can find that out, that's actually how I got an investor. He was a successful lawyer, not in real estate, not a real estate professional, but his wife was a real estate agent. So she qualifies, they file jointly, now they both qualify. I end up saving the guy a bunch in taxes, and he's like, okay, cool, I definitely want to invest with this guy. He knows my situation now, he understands how to help me, and that's really the value, right? So because I understood the value and how to help this guy, he was willing to invest with me. It didn't matter. I didn't have to have some bio. I didn't have to have, a CEO of, blah, blah, blah capital. Like, you don't need to do that. You just need to know how to help this person. If I can give this guy tremendous value, which I did, then he's willing to invest with me. It doesn't matter anything else. It doesn't matter anything else, right? If you can give someone tremendous value, they will invest. That's all you need to focus on is how can I figure out this person's situation and how can I help them as much as humanly possible, more than anyone else, and then you will get them to invest. It's that simple. So how do I get started? There's so much to learn. Yeah, there's definitely quite a bit to learn. We've gone over a decent amount, but I want to help you guys out. I want to give you guys something to kind of make that easier for you. So I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to sign up for a free one-on-one strategy session with me. And if you sign up, I'm actually going to give you the entire pitch deck. I've just shown you like the first section. I'm going to give you the whole thing. And then I'm also going to give you my free deal analyzer. And the deal analyzer is pretty sweet. We have the ability to break out the GP into sub rules and sub percentages, and then see exactly to the dollar how much each GP partner is going to make. And then we also obviously can show you all the investor returns by the dollar, by several metrics every year, and then total. We can also do most things that deal analyzers can do, pretty much everything. We have assumptions tabs, and we're going to walk through the whole thing probably next webinar, so maybe in a week or two. And basically, the deal analyzer is extremely powerful. It's really cool, and I'm really excited about it. We also have break-even occupancy, so we can tell you exactly what your occupancy can fall to before you can't pay the bank anymore. So whatever occupancy drops you to 1.0 DSCR, we know that, and you can see that going into the deal, so you know, okay, where's my floor? And that's a really cool part, so I'll give you that for free. And then we'll also sit down and we'll make a 90-day action plan so that we can make sure that you're going from where you are now to where you want to go, and we're going to make sure that you can take action. We're going to give you daily and weekly actions and see if we can really help you guys out. So I want to leave you guys with this before the Q&A. Remember, all you need is one deal. So one deal gets you the freedom to set your own schedule. And setting your own schedule is really important to me because I just want to set my own time. I don't want to have to wake up when someone tells me to wake up. I don't want to have to be somewhere when someone tells me to be there. I just want to be able to make my day the way that I want it to be. Be your own boss. I want to control my life, and I think that everybody does too, right? Like, we want to be our own boss. We want to take life by the reins and be in control of it. And then we want to spend more time with the people that we love, right? And one deal gets you the freedom to not stress about your bills. So you can just go to the grocery store and buy the food that you want. You don't have to have a notepad or keep your phone calculator out and make sure that you're under your budget. I've done that. I was a college kid, right? I had, my weekly budget for the grocery store, and I had to buy all the off brands, and I couldn't buy the stuff that I wanted. And it was, just demoralizing, and I absolutely hated that. So not have to stress about your bills. Travel when you want to. You don't have to stock up vacation days. You don't have to hoard sick days and come in when you don't feel good because you want to have this vacation next year. That's ridiculous. Let's just travel when we want to. Have the impact on the world that you want to have. So this is a cool thing. When you have financial freedom and you don't have to be anywhere, you can set your own schedule. Well, if you really like art and you want to paint some painting that changes the world, well, great. You have all the free time to do so. You have all the free time to follow your real passion. So a lot of people, they say, how do you get passionate about real estate? How can you ever do that? Well, for me, I'm passionate about owning my time so that I can go and do whatever it is that I'm really passionate about. That's have the impact on the world that you want to have. And live up to your potential. Living up to your potential, man, that's so cool. Like just being able to see the person you want to be in your head and then actually become that person, that's what this allows you to do, because you have the free time to actually take the actions that move your life forward. So let's open up to Q&A, guys. And so you actually can write off the land improvements. You're not writing off the land, Edward. So that is I guess I have to put answer live. Yeah, so basically, you can write off the land improvements. So the improvements that you're making to the land itself, we're not writing off the land, we're writing off the land improvements. Those things being landscaping and sidewalks and things like that. Those are most definitely on a 15-year schedule, and that is definitely part of cost segregation. So there might be a little bit of a miscommunication there, but you definitely can write off land improvements. So the purchase price is not $1 million. The value of the apartment was $1 million. So we were already pre-assuming that the value was $1 million, not the purchase price. So what was your easiest investor meeting? Tapan Trivedi. How you doing, Tapan? It's really great to hear from you, man. My first and easiest investor meeting was probably the one I had with Lalo, because he already knew who I was from seeing me at the meetups, and he believed in me as a person. And that was a really great thing, to have someone take the confidence in you. So it made the investor meeting easy, just because, we had a pre-existing relationship, and that was great. So I would say just go around to these meetups and try to introduce yourself to people and get to be known in the community, because then your investor meetings are going to be a lot easier, because people already know who you are, they know your character, and it makes the warm-up process a little bit easier. Kyle, will you help raise equity for other people's deals? Yeah, absolutely. It depends on the deal, of course, and it depends on the market and things like that, but that's definitely something that I would do. So what meetup did you get your first exposure? Well, that's a great question. It is actually the Round Table in Sacramento. So shout out to the Round Table. It's since become one of the meetups for Neil Bao, I believe, but it was a great situation. And the meetup host, Eric, is a brilliant individual. So I got a lot of exposure there, and I really appreciate that experience in that platform. So how do you go about emailing people on BiggerPockets and LinkedIn? Well, if you go to BiggerPockets, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is, go to a forum, see people who are putting smart information in, and send them a direct message. It says message. There's a button that says message. Greg, this is a great question. When is a deal too small for the syndication model, price-wise? Well, everything kind of hinges on the investor returns in a syndication. So whatever amount of size that you can give away equity on, and you'll still get this person a certain return, ideally around a 15% IRR. And also it comes down to your personal preference, right? Like, you're splitting a deal with individuals. So if your piece of the pie is too small for you personally, well, then that's when you would make that decision as well. Because if you're getting 20% of a very small deal and maybe you need more money, and that's a personal preference, then it would be too small. So it's somewhat subjective and then somewhat objective, in the sense that if it meets the IRR, then we can move forward. So what were the approximate numbers on your first deal? Price, units, how much you increased, cap rate, and profit? So this is a great question. Thank you, Roy. So the first deal was a 107 unit for me. It was a $4.5 million deal in Louisville, Kentucky. And basically the expense line was huge when we first got it. They were paying payroll $90,000 a year. And in the market, we should only be around 35 grand. And the reason was because they were paying a cousin of theirs that they had, who was a charity case cousin. So he was having some personal issues, and they decided to employ him and overpay him. So that was a great situation for us, so we were immediately able to cut off, $45-ish thousand. And then there was also a downed unit. So we bought it at 106. We thought it was a 106 unit deal, but upon inspection, we found a totally plumbed, ready to go unit. It just had a bunch of storage in it. So we cleaned it out, bought a storage shed, and boom, 107 units. So that was kind of the way that we improved that deal. So Kyle, who is your mentor? I currently don't actively have a mentor. I went through the Jake and Gino program, which is an amazing program, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for that situation. It's definitely a good program, but yeah, I'm no longer really actively in that mentorship group. So in your experience, how do people split the GP? Specifically, how much is the equity raising portion of the GP? So the way that people split the GP varies. Typically, the capital raiser is about 25% of the GP. So, and if you're asking how they split the GP from the LP, again, that comes back to the same question of returns. So what split can get someone a 15% IRR or whatever return metric that they're looking for? That's kind of what you end up making the return split. And yeah, it comes down to the inner GP negotiation, but typically the market rate for a capital raiser is around 25% of the GP. Do you have a dollar amount that you personally consider as your threshold for financially free? So again, this is a personal situation where the financially free to me means that you have more money than you spend every month coming in passive income. So if my expenses are $5,000 a month, well then my financial freedom number is $5,000 of passive income. Now, if my expenses are $1,500 a month, then my passive income number is 15. And then if it's 10,000, same thing. So it's whatever allows you to not have to work your job and to know that your lifestyle is paid off by investment income. That's what financially free means. So can you give an example of what to say on bigger pockets and LinkedIn messages? Yeah, that's a great question. So something that I would say would be, number one, how you can help them. I would lead with how you can help them. It's extremely important that you let someone know what's in it for them immediately. Because people, again, they don't necessarily want to hear how, like, sometimes I get these emails like, hey, I'm new in investing. How can I help you out? It's like, well, now you're making me have to figure out how you can help me out. Just make that easy for me. Do some research on the person that you're looking to help or that you're looking to connect to if you're talking about investor partners, and see how you can help them out. And if it's an investor, like passive investor, then figure out their kind of job title or something like that and say, I help doctors X by doing X, right? I do something for people like you, not, hey, I want to help you out, right? That's too vague, and you want to really tailor it to their situation. So what did I do differently after I closed on the first apartment deal? Well, now but yeah, so what did I do differently? Well, now I have a much better investor questionnaire. So I no longer, I ask people exactly where their money is coming from, because on my first deal, we actually had a situation where someone was 1031ing into the deal, but I didn't know until like the last minute because I didn't ask. And so to 1031 into a syndication, you have to do a TIC agreement, which is a tenant in common. It's a kind of a workaround. It's very complicated, and I just wish I knew beforehand that the money was coming that way. Do you go over compliance with SEC regulations? So yes, SEC regulations are a fun part of syndications for sure. There is two options. You have the 506B as in boy, and you have the 506C as in cat. So 506C means that you have to take accredited investors only. Accredited investors are people with $1 million net worth or higher, not including their primary residence. And those people you can actually solicit to, so you don't have to have what they call a pre-existing and substantive relationship. But on a 506B, you have to have a pre-existing and substantive relationship with the individual prior to the deal actually being in existence. So that's the difference between B and C. I personally do 506B because I want to accept people who are not accredited. So do I use social media to identify potential investors? Sometimes they identify me via social media because I'm trying to be outbound. I'm trying to be a producer on social media, and I'm trying to show people that I'm producing good content and things like that. So sometimes they'll identify me, and then also social media through LinkedIn. I definitely have identified investors that way. So do you have an exit plan for your first deal? So the first deal, yeah, that's a good question. Again, exit plans come down to me for IRR, and at which time are we going to make the investors the highest amount of money via their IRR? And IRR is time sensitive, so there is somewhat of a sweet spot there. But for us right now, we're planning on a 5-year exit, just because of our value add strategy is going to take about that time to be fully realized. Do you focus on raising capital and have a partner that focuses on deals? How do you normally structure that? So I have done a deal with a partner who does the deal and I do the capital. And on that deal, it was about 25% of the GP goes to the capital raiser, about 50% goes to the person who is managing the deal and finding the deals. Then we try to give away some like bonus GP percentage to people who want to sign on the loan, and then people who want to put up the risk capital And risk capital is the deposit and the inspection costs and the lawyer fees, the things that they're not going to get back if the deal doesn't go their way. So we call that risk capital, and we incentivize people by giving them a little bit of the GP. So this one's about syndication fees. And so the fees that I charge are a acquisition fee. So that's 1% of the purchase price up front. And then sometimes there's an asset management fee, which is during the actual running of the property. It's on, I believe, gross income. So it's a fee on gross income, and that is during the cash flow period. And then sometimes people charge a disposition fee, which is a fee on sale. I don't like to do that because if I'm charging one up front, I don't want to charge one on the back end too. It just seems like too much fees for me. Do I buy into my projects or get a percentage of share for doing the deal? Yeah, you get a percentage share for doing the deal. That's the point of the GP. We basically split it 70-30. 70% is the people who bring all the money, 30% is the people who do the work, right? And then the 70% is limited partners, so they have no say in the operation, but they get a return and they have the majority of the equity. What is the max or least amount of people you would syndicate on a $5 million deal? So Alex, this comes down again to personal preference. A lot of these questions, unfortunately, are going to be subjective in some sense, where we need to know what kind of money that you want to make personally and what kind of money that the other people are willing to take. Because in some circumstances, people will work for free. And so in that unique circumstance, you could have as many as 10 people on a GP, right? If some of them are willing to work for less money. But on a $5 million deal, I'd say you'd only really want to have about 2 to 3 GPs if you're going to successfully make everybody a decent amount of money. What kind of return is reasonable for the investors during the hold period? So on a 5-year hold period, we're going to be looking for about a 2% equity or 2.0 equity multiple, which means they're going to double their money in that 5-year period. And then we also are looking for about a 15% IRR during that period as well. So those are kind of their terms, but the general sense that we're going to tell investors, because it's simple and we don't have to get into like what IRR is and all these other things, we're just going to say the equity multiple is around 2% or 2.0, not 2%, just 2.0. And that's going to mean that we're going to actually double this person's equity, or we're going to double their money in the hold period. So can you elaborate on networking a meetup, an event, or a conference? Yeah, I would say that one of the tricks is to have a business card with a blank back so that people can take notes on you. That's actually much more important than you'd think. These people need to have a way to actually write down the notes that they have about you. But also when you're meeting these people, you want to basically, again, just like the emails, just like the reach out, just like pretty much everything, you want to let them know what you can do for them immediately, as soon as it's appropriate in the conversation. They may even ask you what you do. Well, you want to phrase it so that you can help them, right? That's the whole focus. You want to just be a person, right? People invest with people that they know, like, and trust. So you just have to be a person that someone likes and knows and trusts. So just be a person, talk to them like a normal guy, build rapport, and do it that way. So how do you handle a EMD, earnest money deposit, and showing proof of funds and putting down hard deposits and putting it at risk while syndicating? So that's a great question. You want to incentivize one of the LP members to put up risk capital by giving them an extra percentage of the GP. So sometimes we'll give them up to 5 to 10% of the GP just for putting this money up. So we've basically given them a little bit of a bonus. It's to incentivize, because like you said, it's risk capital, right? It's being put at risk. So we have Roy Jans here. Is your info only raising capital? Well, this presentation was about raising capital, but I actually have a lot more information on how to actually do value add and some of the things that we need to, outline, and definitely steps. And if you sign up for the free call, we can talk about that in depth. It's definitely a full conversation to talk about all the value add strategies. So again, you can sign up for the free call. I'd love to chat with you for a longer period of time, but this presentation was specifically about raising money. Yeah, so again, getting a loan, back to that question. We're going to give about 5 to 10% of the GP to an LP who is willing to sign on the loan and put their balance sheet on the line. Because again, they're taking somewhat of a risk here. Even though the loan is non-recourse, there is potential ways for that to become actually recourse through bad actor clauses. So we're going to incentivize them with GP share, just like the risk capital. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, glad I could help. What tools do you use for investor CRM and investor portal? That's another great question. So CRM, I use Pipedrive. I think Pipedrive is a great CRM. Then investor portal, Appfolio is a great investor portal. I've heard of another one. I'll get back to you. Forget what it's called on the top of my head. Juniper Square, I believe, if that's it. Juniper Square or Appfolio, but I personally use Appfolio. I can tell you right now, next time I will have the fan on in here. Jeez Louise. So if we don't have any more questions, I guess I can call it a quits. So give it 2-3 more minutes for questions, and then we'll call it. Okay, I guess that we're going to call that. Thank you guys.